This is the time when I talk about the executive director's report. So I wanted you to know this is your board of directors for the balance of 2023 to 2024. And the reason why I want to list that up there is that everything that you've heard so far, all of the work, all of the initiatives that are taking place in EIMA right now are with the support of the board of directors. It wouldn't happen without them. So this is your board of directors for the balance of 2023 and 2024. And I also want to thank our sponsors. We had a record number of sponsors this year. We had 9, okay? Am I right? No, it's more than that, excuse me. 19, thank you. You'd think I'd learn how to count. But we have 19 sponsors. And one of the challenges that we have as a trade association is trade associations typically make money in annual meetings with a trade show component. We don't have a trade show component. So it's very, very hard for us to even break even. And actually, we before last year, we hadn't broken even in recent memory that I'm aware of, and we would typically lose tens of thousands of dollars a year. But thanks to absorbing the registration revenue that we've had this year, which is at a record level, as well as the sponsorship revenue that you see here, which we got, it's over, what, $44,000 in sponsorship revenue. We not only will come close to breaking even, there's a very good chance we'll have a bit of a positive net income from this event, which is very, very helpful for us for budgetary reasons. So just wanted you to know that. And you see some new faces there. Okay, so why are we here? I'm not going to read this, but the whole reason we're here is because I call it, it's about all EIFs all the time. And this is a direct lift from our bylaws as far as what is the purpose of the EIFs Industry Members Association. And here it is, okay? And this was approved. We actually had a new set of bylaws. We redid the bylaws early last year, and this is a direct lift from that. I'm not going to go over this again, but just so everybody knows visually, so this is our framework. This is the foundation by which EIMA is operating right now. We're all going after strategic initiatives, and I think as you could see from the reports from the working groups serve as the engine for the association right now, which I think is very, very helpful because we're trying to draw on the expertise of members, all the members that are in this room, and we even have some non-members on our working groups, including Steve Mima, the head of Gypsum, Tim Nelson from OPCMIA, and Mike Stark from AWCI. They're on our working groups too, but they serve as the engine of EIMA, and that's deliberate. So I want to talk a little bit about the progress that's been made since, I would say, the beginning of 2022. So since the beginning of 2022, the board of directors has adopted a new strategic plan for the industry, and an entirely new governance and committee structure, an entirely new comprehensive dues structure. We had some dues classes that had not been addressed since the 1990s, okay? So that's all been done. And the working groups started commencing their work, okay? So a lot of, I would say, building the foundation happened in 2022, which was good to kind of, we're trying to bring EIMA into the 21st century. So what happened in 2023? You heard me say a couple of times about turning strategic planning into strategic action, okay? So what happened this year, the big change, is that we had tangible deliverables that are based on all the work that you've all done with the strategic initiatives and the strategic plan. So what does that mean? Well, for everybody, we have a new website, okay? And that's what Lori worked on, frankly, the first quarter of this year, was getting the new website up and going. Any of you who know what it takes to get a new website up and going, it's no easy task. But we have a new website. We haven't hard launched it yet. It's operational. We'll do a harder launch when we have more content on it. But that is transforming our operations so that we can be much more time efficient. I mean, Lori, you can actually instantly update the website, which is very helpful, and it's also interlinked and integrated with our back-end databases, which is huge. The promotion working group. We have a new AIA course first one in 5 years, online AIE course through Hanley-Wood University. And it talks specifically about EIFS with drainage. We have an enhanced awards program. As you heard about earlier today, we had more entries, but about 25% more entries in this year's Architectural Awards program than ever before, okay? Ever before. So we had 67 entries. Last year we had 53. And we did some things to do. We included Canada. We have some new member categories, eligible project categories, but we've made huge strides there, and we're slated to do more. The Technical and Research Working Group. We did a grant application for the EPA. It's the first grant application EIMA's done. We actually had to hire, with the support of the board, we had to hire a grant writer to do it. Because it is a nightmare for someone who has got working with my mind, which is not that technical or precise. But we actually were able to submit it by January 16th. And as Bill Egan mentioned earlier, it is to get industry-wide and company EPDs for all 9 manufacturers of the EIFS industry in the United States. We're asking for $2.1 million. And if we got that, and if it's divided over 2 years, that would literally double our spending power from where we are right now. Fingers crossed. And I'm not going to say we're going to get it. I'm not going to say we're not. We'll find out in May. But the one good thing I can say is that we're on the radar of the EPA. We're on the map in a good way. Because now I'm starting to get emails from the EPA grant people saying I have to take a course in grant administration. So that's a good thing. We're doing new technical bulletins for EIMA's website, which is great. EIMA branded technical bulletins. We've got 5 underway right now. And once those are done and vetted and legally vetted and member vetted, we'll post them on the website, and then we'll do a hard launch of the website with the new content. For federal, state, and local, since our last meeting last year, Stephen Doggett last year at this very meeting talked about the problem in Minneapolis last April. It was in Palm Springs. Well, we actually won in Minneapolis. It was a huge all hands to the pump effort, but that was a significant thing. And I think the upshot of it we can tell you is that after several years where the Planning Commission was all set to go with the recommendation of the Planning Commission staff unanimously to ban EIFS on all parts of the building, we flipped it from July to October of last year, a total reversal, so that in that Planning Commission meeting they voted, instead of 0 to 9, 9 to 0, to allow EIFS on every part of the building in Minneapolis. So it was a total win, but it was something that we had Drive It, we had Stowe, we had other manufacturers help, we had distributors help, we had labor unions help, we had academia help, we had somebody from the University of Minnesota help, and Bill Egan helped. So it was an all hands to the pump effort to make that kind of thing happen. And Mercury talked about that yesterday. We've got some new advocacy toolkits and a new EIFS Advantage series and insurance collateral under federal, state, and local. So we've got a lot of new things going on. And then for education and workforce development, Nate Katz just talked about the fact that EIFS Doing It Right, second edition, is live. So the thing that we're very pleased about is that for every working group, we have at least one very tangible deliverable that has happened that is consistent with the strategic plan, and this should help the industry, okay? So we're very pleased that that's underway, and we're going to keep going with that. So this is on a more global level. The EIFS industry and EIMA are in a stronger position at the end of 2023 than they were in 2022. So what does that mean? So net sales at the end of 23 were 22% higher at the end of 2023 than they were at the end of 2022. In fact, I looked at all of the manufacturers' estimates that we've been keeping track of since the 1980s, and we were ahead of every year ever last year, and that includes the mid-2000s when we were really kind of at heady days. It's not square footage, because we're not in the residential space in a meaningful way right now, but when it comes to net sales, we're at record levels. EIMA is an association. We broke $1.3 million in revenues last year, okay? That's the first time we broke over $1 million. We were, 35% higher than the end of 2022 as far as revenues are concerned. So what does that mean? We had a new manufacturer member. We had new sponsorship. We had more sponsorship revenue last year. We also took advantage of the federal government's ERTC credit. So there's a lot of stuff that helped us be in a better position financially than we were in previous years. And what does that do for us? Well, it enables us to do things like get a new website and association management software program that can help us act more with 2020, the late 2020s industry best practices. And of course, the break-even annual meeting. Because I have to tell you, the first time I looked at the financial statements and I saw that there was a net loss of like $30,000 just from, so it was a point where when more people came, we'd lose more money. And that's not a situation we wanted to be in. So that's switched now, and that's for the good. And of course, there are other issues that are in Eve's favor. We heard this all along, and you saw this last night. Today's Eves with drainage is the best that it's ever been. There's no question. It looks better, it performs better, and I dare say you talk to architects, and if you have a distant shot, I think people from the street can't tell if it's Eves, stone, metal, wood, stucco. They can't really tell. Okay, so you can do more with the Eves today than you ever could before. That is hugely in our favor. Other issues. I call these tailwinds. Sustainability continues to be a priority. Interesting when you heard Donna speak yesterday that sustainability as a term may be a little out of favor right now. That I found that kind of interesting. But sustainability, I would say, is a movement when you talk about energy efficiency, climate change, net zero, all of that kind of thing. We are it's still a fever pitch. And this is from our new website about East with Drainage. We fit that like a glove, right? I mean, we're the original continuous insulation. So that's very much in our favor. Housing affordability is a huge issue. It is a macro issue. This is from February 29th in the Wall Street Journal. What does it say? Home buyers in the U.S. need to earn $47,000 more now than they did in 2020 to afford the same house. So it's an issue. It's not going away. And there are other things that they're trying to do about it, but it's just interesting. If you see this article, what Zillow says, 2020, a household earning $59,000 annually could comfortably afford the monthly mortgage on a typical U.S. home. It's not like that now. Demand for retrofits is increasing. So in the United States, there's about 123 plus million buildings in the nation's housing stock. Okay, that's from the EPA. What do we build? Maybe 2.5 million new buildings a year on the outside. So that's a stretch. So there's no way you can use new construction as a way to deal with climate change if that's what you want to do in the U.S. So, and you look at the fact that existing buildings account for nearly 40% of annual global greenhouse gas emissions, it's an issue. So retrofitting has to be part of that solution. That plays so much into our favor. That was our history. I mean, back in Germany, right? We were used for retrofitting. That was how we got our start. And then, of course,
this is Michigan's first 3D printed home.
And you will find it in Detroit, located at 1444 Sheridan Street.
A lot of benefits to the type of construction using 3D concrete printing.
On Friday, Fox 2 cameras were rolling as painters and a plumber maneuvered to complete their final work. The house just hit the market. The asking price, $224,500.
We're not designing for 2x4s or 2x6s anymore. Now we have the freedom of design to use the robot to print curvature, to print texture. We can decide how much cavity we want in the wall.
That precision and details eliminates waste.
This definitely saved a ton of material.
Citizen Robotics is behind this single-story, 988-square-foot home, which has 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom and an attic space that can be used for storage. The organization seeks to reduce the cost of housing construction through the adoption of robotic construction techniques. So who's the ideal homeowner?
Anybody interested in a home that is going to be resilient and that is going to be efficient. This is an all-electric house. We also have a zero threshold entrance off to the side, so somebody in a wheelchair would be able to enter the home with no problem.
Advocates of the 3D printed home say this construction process is also better for the environment.
The material scientists out there are developing numerous kinds of concrete that use less carbon to produce.
Some may argue that a price tag of nearly $225,000 is a lot for this type of construction, but those who advocate for it say it will actually save you money over time.
This house is super airtight. Its energy efficiency is going to lessen the cost of ownership over time for that homeowner. So there's huge savings to be had.
And if you purchase the home, you're riding the wave of the future.
We're still building with sticks. Why is that? We think that there's a better, more efficient, more cost-effective way for the future of home building, and we just want to be a part of that.
In Detroit, Ingrid Kelly, Fox 2 News.
So the printed version of that news article does mention that the cladding is eaves. And I think one of the nice things is that obviously 3D printing is not a mainstream building practice, and who knows if it ever will be. But it's interesting to note that eaves can actually be part of that. And so we're poised, we are modern. Dennis, you mentioned it's space age material in our last session. We are a modern engineered material. We are definitely a 21st century building material. And with the demands of the building environment today, Joe Stieberg talked about higher humidity levels internally yesterday at that session. We are poised to take advantage of what's going on in construction and the environment right now. But so here's some headwinds, because there are headwinds, okay? So we don't want to rest on our laurels. For those who were here last November, Kingfisher Strategies gave a keynote presentation, and eaves has been in a defensive position for years. The industry is still feeling the reputational effects of the 1990s. We just heard that right now from Andy Boyd. We're hearing things from the 90s today. Stagnant to declining market share for 15 years. I don't have a good answer to that. I mean, I know our net sales were up last year, which is great. I don't know what that meant in terms of wall share. I don't know if that was all inflation or what. But that's just something to think about. But I do know that in the single-family space, which is 25% of all construction spending rather, we're not really there right now. Eaves manufacturers and distributors do not aggressively market eaves. Okay. Now, what I mean by that, it's as far as funding is concerned, and you'll see what I mean in a second, because they do it. But are they spending 1% of net sales on advertising, or 3% of sales like Nike is? No, they're not. And other groups may be, but they're chipping away at it, but that's just where it is. And regulatory bodies are proposing real challenges. Absolutely true. Minneapolis is a case in point. Boston and Chicago could be cases in point too. We've heard Georgia on it. We just won one in Texas a few years ago, but they're posing a real issue. Other tailwinds. So what do I mean by marketing aggressively? I don't know what a 20F state security statement is, but this is something that James Hardy posted. Look at this. So last year I told you James Hardy spent $53 million in advertising. This year it's over $83 million. So they have a licensing deal with the NFL and the PGA. I was actually wondering, are they going to be on the Super Bowl this year? They weren't, but they're in it to win it. Okay, James Hardy is here. They are in it to win it, and it just shows you how formidable they are, because they're not following suit of most building materials manufacturers are investing a lot more in marketing and advertising than most of the other sector does. There are other trade groups that are in it to win it too. This is the latest, but this is the 2024 budget from the Softwood Lumber Board. It's a checkoff program. It's over $18 million. $18 million. Okay, and they do all sorts of things. They do code development. They do marketing. They do advocacy. They do research. I like that they're spending over $5 million in conversion, whatever that is. The concrete masonry folks, they just launched their own checkoff program. So this is what their new CEO said at the bottom. The holiday season is upon us, and it appears to have everyone at CMC in the giving mood. Last month, the board conditionally approved all 23 programs recommended for funding by our programs committee and RACs to the tune of nearly $5 million. They're not even a year old. That's quite an accomplishment for an organization only 2 quarters into assessments. Other industry efforts are just much better resourced. And actually, I was going to have the slide here, but I'll say it in because I actually remember it. So where are we? So the EIMA team, the way we operate our business model, it's Lori and it's me and it's an army of consultants, okay, that help us when we can. You heard from Mercury. We've got great legal, we've got great accounting, all that kind of stuff. But it's 2 people, okay, and there's not a big safety net, because I can just tell you, and we're both doing what we need to do. The whole website that you see here, this whole annual meeting, I do maybe less than 1% of it. Lori Joseph does all of it, okay? And I do the other stuff. And I want to give Lori a hand because I couldn't do my job without her. Okay? So, I think we're doing what we can now. I'd say we feel pretty flat out. But could we do a lot more to deal against the James Hardie or the softwood lumber boards of the people with our current resource level? No, we can't. It's not possible. Okay, but what can we do? Okay, because the glass is half full, because you are helping and doing things. So there are several things that we can do, because we've done a lot, and we can keep going down that path. If we continue actualizing and building out the strategic plan through the working groups, as I said before, the working groups are really the engine of EIMA. We can continue attracting support through collaboration. We don't work alone, right? I mean, as I mentioned, the East Doing It Right 2nd edition, we didn't do that. AWCI did that. But it helps us, right? It helps all of you to have that collaboration built in. These are the organizations that we've worked with in some form or fashion, either through active advocacy or through participation and annual meetings over the last 2 years. It's quite a good list. Okay, so these are the people that we work with, which helps a lot. We also ask, and some of you are doing this already, social media, we actually get a lot of mileage on that. LinkedIn is our primary source to get information out because it's a B2B thing. And right now we're focusing on B2B more than Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. But a lot of you do this, and we encourage you to do it to help spread the industry's messaging. So if you see an EIMA message on LinkedIn that you think is appealing or relevant, we encourage everybody to like and share it. Okay, so we ask you to do that. And because we actually now broke 2,000 followers on LinkedIn, which is, there were about 900 when I got here. So 2,000, it's great, but it's only 2,000. It's not 15,000, right? Some of you have that. So anytime you can spread and forward and elevate your things, that's very helpful. This is another thing that Shep mentioned that we have to keep in mind. We must avoid disappointments, okay? And he couldn't have been more strongly emphatic about this because of what happened in the 90s in North Carolina. We don't want an episode like that again. So let's say, for example, if we do want to launch back into the single-family space, if we're going to do it, I would recommend that we make sure that everything is done, that we have it all locked in, soup to nuts, ready to go before launching, because it's one of those, it's an old advertising adage I used to hear, good, fast, and cheap, pick 2, right? It's a good business term, and you want it to be good regardless, right? Because nobody remembers, except if you're on the Super Bowl, nobody remembers when you're going to launch. So if you launch something a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year later than you originally wanted to, it doesn't matter. But if you launch prematurely and it's wrong, wow, that's hard to come back from. So that's just something to think about. and encouraging everyone who has a vested interest in the EIFS industry to join EIMA. Okay? So that includes manufacturers, associates, distributors, applicators and contractors, affiliates who have an interest in the EIFS industry and do not qualify. We encourage everyone, if you have a vested interest in EIFS, we encourage everyone to join, okay, and participate. Yeah, we're off to a good start, I have to tell you. So this is this year, 2024. We have 3 new associate members. And if you include since last year's annual meeting, we have 4, because Atlas Molded Products joined after last year's meeting too. So we're off to a very good start, and which is encouraging. I'm so glad that they made their way here. And that's all I've got. Any questions or comments before I turn it back over to Steve? The airport beckons. So anyway, great. Thank you. Okay.
I want to thank Lori Joseph also. She does so many things for the whole EIMA group, and thank you very much, Lori, for all your work. And Stephen Sears, yeah, give Lori another hand there. When Masterwall first joined EIMA, Dave Johnson was preparing for retirement, and we had to pick a new executive director, and we had lots of applicants who wanted that job, and Stephen Sears floated to the top as we were doing those interviews and looking at those resumes, and I have to say, Stephen, it was a good choice, the best choice, and you have done a great job leading this organization since you joined it, so I appreciate you, Stephen, all you do. I have trouble keeping up with Stephen. What he writes and what he says is a lot. So thank you for all you do. Okay, home stretch here. Actually, I'm supposed to ask you again if there's any questions or comments before I close the meeting. So I'll give you about 30 seconds to raise your hand or say something, or I'm going to move on. Anything? Okay. That's easy. All right. I want to thank very much everyone who attended the meeting and the sponsors for helping support it, as there were many, more than usual. As you can see, we're in a great industry with a great cladding system that is poised for growth. But we will need everyone's help and support to do it, including the people that aren't here today. If we want to experience a resurgence in EIFS, other than that, thanks for everyone being here. We hold our next meeting in November, where we're in person, and more details will be provided as we get closer to that date. So I declare this meeting over and adjourned, and safe travels. Thank you very much for being here.